Welcome to Book Lounge by Libby. I'm Joe, and I am so happy you're here. This is the place where book lovers, authors, and industry insiders come together to talk about the stories we love and the impact they have. Before we dive in, don't forget to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you do your listening. And you can subscribe to the Libby App YouTube channel if you want to watch full video versions of our show. If you love what we're doing, leave a review or drop a comment. It helps more folks find us. And I'm so appreciative if you take the time to do that. Thank you. Today, we are talking about back to school and getting back to books. We're going to have a conversation about the back to school season, how we can support the kids in our lives, get back into the rhythm of things, fight against bullying, and more. And then, of course, in segment 2, our amazing guest host will share incredible juvenile, middle grade, and YA book recs today. I also want to say, if you are not a parent, if you don't have kids in your life, there is still so much to take away from today's episode. The conversation in segment 1 that I have with Rex Ogle is incredible. There are so many thoughtful moments, and I want to encourage you to think of how these can apply to your life as well, and how we can take some of these lessons and heal ourselves and our inner child. So please give this episode a listen, even if you don't have kids in your life. But if you do have kids in your life, I also hope that you'll take this as an opportunity to see how you can support them as well. So as I mentioned, Rex Ogle will be joining me. Rex is an award-winning author and editor of more than 100 books, comics, graphic novels, and memoirs. And you can find him online at rexogle.com, linked in the show notes. And then in segment 2, I will be joined by Meara, and we'll both give you all sorts of incredible book recommendations to spice up your TBR with some incredible middle grade and YA picks. Now, enough from me. Let's dive into segment 1. So let's turn the page and dive on in. Well, Rex, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You are truly one of my absolute favorites between your memoir style books for kids, your graphic novels, the work you're doing to take the classics and make them queer. You just do so many amazing things, and your story just, it touches my heart every time I think about you. And getting to meet you in person was incredible as well. Of course, can't say thank you enough for that. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's still, I have like imposter syndrome about the whole thing. Like always knew I wanted to be a writer, but like I didn't realize like it would come with, I don't know, the public stuff. I just wanted to hide behind my laptop and a typewriter. Honestly, when I was a kid, that I imagined one day I was like, I'll just have a typewriter and I'll just live in a bedroom with books everywhere and I'll be so happy.
Yeah, you had that kind of like Jessica Fletcher fantasy. I'm just going to be typing away. No one's going to bother me. I'll solve the murders when they happen. But
Jessica Fletcher was the murderer. Okay, no one has that many dead people pop up in their small town. Okay, she was the killer. Let's be honest.
She had to be, right? Now, today we are looking at back to school. In the second half of the show, our influencers are going to be recommending, juvenile, middle grade YA books. My hope today is to look at both how parents can be welcoming and embrace the kind of struggles that come with the back to school season, but also how we can remind our kids that, like, hey, life goes on. Every day is something new. So to kind of start us off with getting back into the rhythm of school, I wanted to look at kind of routine. And I think you, as someone who's traveling always for work, you're in a hotel room right now. What is advice you'd give to parents and caregivers to kind of help kids establish routine and readjust?
I mean, I think routine is so important. I mean, for me, with a history of PTSD and all the stuff that I went through, it was so good for me to kind of develop that routine, not just as a person who needed structure in their life, but also as an adult when I was trying to teach myself to be a writer. And I always tell people, they're like, how are you so prolific? And I'm like, it's like marathon running. I didn't just wake up like this and start writing 8 hours in a row. Like, it took me like 25 years to work up to this place. And when I was in New York City, I would wake up every morning at 6 a.m. I would go to the gym. I would come home, breakfast, shower, hop on my bike, ride to work. edit books and comic books for, 8 to 10 hours a day, come home, shower again, and then I would just start writing. And I would write for 3, 4, 5 hours a night. And I wrote 18 novels while I was in New York, and they were all rejected. But that routine was so good. It like really helped me establish, boundaries. And now I actually still have a routine, which is, get up, go to the gym, come home, write for 10 hours. But I now schedule free time. And I think that's
Yes.
really maybe something that parents should pay attention to, because when you throw your kids back into work mode, I mean, we all know what work mode is as adults, but I think for kids, scheduling that, like, you have 1 hour to yourself every night to do whatever you want, whether it's, I mean, I don't think it should be social media, but
I don't either, but if that's what it
yeah,
is, or if that's
video
like the
games,
age appropriate,
yes. If it's like Mario Kart, let's not do Call of Duty. Let's do Mario Kart
yes,
because that's fun and
please.
cute. Or even reading a book. Like my hour every night is reading comic books.
Ah. No, but that's so important because even when you were saying that, I was thinking of like, well, the work day for the kid is so different because there's all that time at school, there's
Right.
time for homework, and then, oh, well, I also have soccer and I have this and I have this. And even though parents, I know I would be like, oh, well, that's got to be fun. Well, that all adds up. I don't survive, like even my favorite days when I meet up with my friends and we go to get coffee and go to the antique store and then go to TJ Maxx and then Marshalls and then Home Goods. By the time I get home, I'm like, whew, I'm
Yeah.
beat. And what did I
Yeah.
do? Like, so we have to think of kids as what they are, little adults.
100%. I mean,
They
we're all
have
people.
that.
We all need that moment to relax. I mean, ideally, we'd be putting a book in the kid's hands and be like, "You have to read for an hour." But that's
Sure.
not every kid is designed that way. But I would say, like, if you can get a kid like, I mean, this is just me being like, I'm like, I don't have kids, but I have lots of nieces and nephews.
Same.
And like when I go visit them, I'm always like, hey, like, let's sit down and read a book just for 1 hour while I'm here. And often they're like, no, let's go play monster trucks outside. Let's go play with the water guns. Let's go, watch something stupid on TV. I'm like, why don't we do this together? And, I'll introduce you to one of my favorite books, not Stephen King because they're children.
Not yet. Not yet.
But like I like to read age appropriate books with them and sometimes try to find, like, if I know they like monster trucks, I'm like, where's a graphic novel with a monster truck, even if it's just like
Yes,
in the background. I mean, that's why I put a
exactly.
monster truck in Doña Quixote 1, just because I was like, I cannot think of any graphic novels with a monster truck. So what's cooler than an abuela driving a monster truck through town to save the day? I'm like,
And then your nieces and nephews get to go, oh, well, my uncle did this for me
uh-huh.
because I love monster trucks. But that's exactly it. I mean, I think of like the formats now. We are so rich with things that we can enjoy. So we can hand kids graphic novels, we can hand them audiobooks, and it's accessible. So if that kid says, okay, but I want to go practice my kicks. I don't know why I'm on a I don't play soccer, but kids play soccer. I
Yeah,
want to just go practice kicking in the yard. Be like, okay, well, remember those AirPods we got you for your birthday that you wanted?
right.
Pop in an audiobook, listen to it
Yeah.
while you're doing that. Like, how do we just, like bridge the gap a little bit, and then, like you were saying, where's that just pure hour of free time? What Saturday of the month gets to just be their day?
Yeah. And that's my whole thing that I've discovered is like, and I didn't make this up, obviously, but I heard a librarian say it. Well, I didn't hear her. I read her quote in a New York Times article, and she said, we have to meet the kids where they are at.
Yes,
I'm like, oh my God, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard, because it's,
absolutely.
as an editor, I was working on Batman and Superman and Lego and Transformers. And there's a reason those books were New York Times bestsellers straight out the door. It's because kids want to have some kind of entry point, some kind of entertainment. They don't want it to feel like homework, which, since they have to read at school, I can see I can see why some kids, I mean, all my nieces and nephews, I had, oh my God, I had 9. Two of them are 1 and 3, so they don't count, but the other 7, of the 7, 1 was a reader. one. And I was always like, I mean, I put all of them at least as a name mention in a book somewhere. Sometimes it was work for hire, but I was like, look, you're in a book. You should read this. And they're like, that's really cool. I'm not really into reading. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh my God, read a book, please. You're in it.
this book, you are in this book, read it. You have to.
Yeah, yeah. So just yeah, I think we're entering kind of the golden age of books in the sense like more now than ever before. There is a book for every kid out there. And if not now, then in the next
Absolutely.
probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And thinking about your own work, going back to school, bullying, all of that. What do you remember as being some of the hardest parts? Like when I think of Pizza Face, when I think of Four Eyes, when you take those stories, what of that is I lived this life? What of that is, like this was just expected and what do you see from the kids that you meet today that's still the same?
I will say maybe I was atypical. I'm about to trauma dump, so trigger warning. uh for me, being at home was the worst. I did not look forward to summer breaks because summer breaks meant my friends were on vacation. They were out of town. I did not get to see them because I was babysitting my brother. I was spending more time at home with my mom and my stepdad, which meant I was walking around with the target on my back 24/7. Whereas school, I had a target on my back for bullies, but you know what? Something was
It's so
more
different.
scary about, kids calling me names and ripping me apart because that almost felt, I don't know, safer. So for
Mhm.
me, I love school. I always look forward to school. When I discovered what 0 hour was, I was like, wait, I can go to school an hour early and take an extra class? 100% I'm in. Like, it was Miss Telford, 10th grade. What I did not realize then that I do now is that she was probably definitely a lesbian because she had a lot of historical things where she made learning fun by telling us not about the big details, but about the small details and like
Yes.
letting us know about like certain people and like either, well, yes, some of them were gay, but she also was like, this guy was a serial killer. This guy was, yeah, she
She
always
knew the way to like enrich everyone's
history.
lives and
Yeah.
she found the way to say that like, oh, I know what you're looking for. I know what
Yeah.
you're looking for. And then for everyone else, he was a serial killer. But like,
Uh-huh.
there is that genuine love of like, I see you. We're in this together.
Yes. I mean, she won us over day one because she was like, you realize that the bubonic plague happened because of the witch burnings. And we were like, what? And then she let us through and we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, and of course, anyone who has a cat, you're like, why would you kill a cat with the witch? But yeah, I mean, you've heard that, right? The
Oh
witch.
yeah. Oh, it's absolutely wild. Like when you think about any of that.
It blew my mind. I was like, witch burnings? The bubonic plague, it's all connected.
Oh, believe me, I was that kid too. I was reading the book like what's this all about?
Well, I try to do that in my books. Like, even if I just go down a rabbit hole and I find like something super interesting that I've never heard before, which I do all the time, I'm like, this has to go in the book. And sometimes my editors are like, well, this doesn't contribute to the thesis of the book. And I'm like, but it's such a fun moment. And if we can give those fun
Yes.
moments to kids where they're like, I've never thought of that, or wait, no, really, I love cats. I didn't know that cats could have stopped the plague.
Like a natural teaching moment. You find a
Yes.
way to slip it in and it gives just enough to go like, "Oh." And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden maybe the next book they pick up is the nonfiction one to go, "What happened here?" And it doesn't take much. You just have to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's why with all of the books I do under Rey Terciero are obviously retellings or reimaginings of classics. I insist. I've had a few editors be like, "Do we really need this?" I'm like, "Yes, 2 pages of back matter in the back of the book, one about the original author, one about the book itself, and then one is like an editorial letter from or an author's letter from me being like, this is why I wrote the book." And my
Yes.
hope is that it's kinda like a gateway drug. Sorry, am I allowed to say
Yes.
gateway drug? A
You
gateway
sure are.
book. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because of, like, as a kid, like, if I read Uncanny X-Men 244 and it was Jubilee's first appearance, and they're like, oh, but Betsy Braddock's first appearance was in Captain America #1, I would immediately
You
go
would
to
have
comic books
jumped
and
all the
look
way
for it.
back. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, hey, talk about gateway drugs. I was a Wishbone kid. So that
Oh,
little dog was teaching me about classic lit.
yeah.
Now, it was definitely better with Wishbone telling me, but it opened the
Yeah.
door to so many other things. And it's important where we can understand where things come from. I mean, I think that's such an important point you make of like, even if that doesn't take them to Little Women, because what am I thinking of?
Meg Jo Bethany.
Thank you. I'm like, it's on my it's truly above my head right now. My library is above me. If we're thinking Meg Jo Beth and Amy, even if it doesn't take them to Little Women, it will take them to all of the books that Little Women inspired. Like
Yes.
that's the most important thing of what we see today, this renaissance of reimagining, retelling. It's also important because we're getting an updated version. We're finding a way to make the world more inclusive for our kids today, for
Yeah.
the stories that need to be told. It doesn't take away the importance of that original source material, but it
Yeah.
really does make a new impact for it.
Yeah. It's funny because I grew up in rural Texas, but my little friend group, we were all like the outsiders. We were like the little weirdos. And like,
Mhm.
oh, there was me, the half Mexican, secretly queer kid. Then my one of my best girlfriend. I'm trying not to say their names.
Of
One of my
course.
best girlfriends was Mormon, and she really, really, really struggled with it. From simple things like she could not have Coke at lunch with us. She could not drink caffeine. To like, she had feelings for a boy, and her mom was like, "He's not in the Mormon church. That will never, never happen." I had another friend who was Korean, and in rural Texas in the 80s and 90s, I mean, they ripped her apart. Like kids would call her Oriental, and Chinese or Japanese, and you know, I will say, I remember I was in sixth grade, and I did. Someone asked me, they're like, "What is Melissa?" And I was like, "She's Asian," and she got really upset with me because I didn't know that she was Korean, and she cried, and at the time, I was like, "It's not that big of a deal." And then, like, later as I had a conversation with her, I was like, "Oh, I can see how that would be devastating to feel so unseen."
Yeah.
You're surrounded in Texas in the 80s and 90s by all white.
Right.
Um, yeah, so it's like just bringing that cognizance and, you know, I don't know, I try to put diverse casts in all my books. Like my first
Mhm.
girlfriend was black, and, Korean friends and Mexican friends and poor friends and rich friends. And like, I want
Right.
my books to be reflective the way X-Men or Star Trek were. They were so diverse. And for me, like science fiction has always been ahead of the game in the sense of inclusivity. So I've maybe
Definitely.
such a nerd.
Hey, and you know what? That's what you'll find. We're
Yeah.
all nerds one way or another because that's how we find ourselves.
Yeah.
So you tour a lot. You go to school, you do school visits, you hear from kids.
Yes.
What is something from all of these visits that if you were to say to the adults right now that you wish adults understood better about what kids are going through?
One is that they're not gonna understand,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
here's the thing is, like, my generation, I'm a man of a certain age, and, it is easier for me to relate with generations who came before because our, social norms weren't that different. Like, when I was a kid, I'd hop on my bike, I'd ride around. My mom would be like, "Be home at 10 p.m." As a fifth grader on a bicycle in a town, like your parents just trust that, don't get in the van with strangers. Like, and that's almost a very simple way of looking at the world. But these kids now, like,
Mhm.
they're not being offered candy from strangers in a van. They're being offered like, $100 on the internet to maybe take a picture of their feet. Like, I don't know. I'm
Exactly.
I'm just saying,
Exactly.
like, it is a very, 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 very different world out there. And whatever we think that the kids are going through, they're probably going through 10 times more. And it's funny
Yeah.
because in one school visit, the first year I was doing school visits, I was talking about Four Eyes, which obviously is, getting bullied for getting glasses. And I brought it up and I made a very casual remark being like, I'm sure things are better now because everyone is so much more aware. The kids started laughing. 3 kids in the front row were like, "Are you insane?" They're like, "It's worse than ever." And these kids were so quick to correct me on bullying happens every single day. They're like the helicopter parenting and the multiple teachers in a classroom and all the things that we're doing to prevent bullying, even like all the online resources, it's still as prevalent today as it was then, if not worse, because these kids are empowered by the internet to become, I mean, to troll each other. And
Yeah.
like, I remember being, horribly embarrassed one day in school when my mom showed up. And I won't even tell that story, but my mom showed up at school and everyone in the cafeteria saw that she was my mom. And I was like, this is mortifying. But that was like a once in my childhood kind of thing. Now, kids are put on display on Instagram, or kids aren't on Instagram. I don't know, Snapchat or wherever the kids are. It's like one kid can be ripped apart in front of their entire class with the press.
Because of whatever mom posted on Facebook or what.
Yeah. Oh, I
I'm
just read from other kids.
oh
Kids, but
sure.
yeah.
Whatever kind of like Snapchat nonsense and
Yeah.
TikTok post and Fortnite dances. I don't know.
Right. 100%.
I'm like just old enough to be like, I don't understand. I know where I shouldn't be.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, speaking of social media, from
Yes.
your perspective, especially with writing for kids and teens, how does social media play into identity, belonging, bullying? How do you write it? How do you avoid it?
So I've been kind of working with different knacks, like with the middle grade, I don't mention social media. I'm like, you know what? If there's a cell phone, it's usually because like I need a text message between like
Two
the mom
friends.
and the kid being like, you need to get home now or you're going to get in trouble to raise the stakes of the story.
Yeah.
I try to avoid social media with middle grade because I truly hope middle grade kids aren't on social media. I don't think they're emotionally prepared for it. And
Oh, yeah.
God, I mean, like, and here's the thing is like, I remember being a kid and given a bike and being like, go, go explore the world and have fun. That was a different time. But I do think that it would be better if kids were on a bike and like out because it's as soon as they have a phone, they have access to so many things that are not.
Just dangerous.
Yeah.
And not good. Like not not good for us mentally. Like I
Yeah.
think of even when I take a week away to just be like,
Yeah.
okay, the only thing this phone is going to be good for is answering phone calls and text messages.
Yes.
Anything else, it doesn't do. It did
Yeah.
for whatever, it doesn't
Mhm.
do it.
Well,
And after that, I always feel so much better because there's not that like constant stream of here's what's going on in the world. Here's what your friends are doing. Here's what you're
fine.
not doing this week. Like,
I have no notifications on my phone except for text messages. And even those with
yeah.
some chains with friends. No, I turn off the
Well,
notification.
with those, yeah.
I'm like, y'all are obnoxious. It's like
Oh,
I'm working right now. So
it's
with
so
middle grade,
true. I love to throw on the good old do not like, oh, I'm recording right now. Do not disturb is
not
on and
disturb.
everyone can see it. Like,
Yes,
I will let you know I'm ignoring you right now.
as it should.
Yeah.
So middle grade, no. With YA, I've been trying to figure out because I want to tell classic stories. Like, who knows? What if cell phones aren't a thing in 10 years? But but I'm also wanting to bring it up. Like, there is a scene I just wrote the other day that was more emotionally impactful than I thought it would be. And I can't say the book yet. Um because it's not out in the world. But there is a scene where someone uses a text message to destroy another character in the book. And it does. It it's social, it's a public execution.
Yeah.
And it's done so petty, and the person who does it, like, does it to be petty and vengeful, but afterwards seeing the impact is like, "Oh my g I knew it would be bad, but I did not know it would be that bad." And so I want that to kinda be like I mean, I think that's a sign of the times. I think that's what kids are doing. It happened to my niece a few years ago, and it was like this weird Taylor Swift comment that, like, on maybe it was Instagram or Snapchat, one of those.
Sure.
but like it really destroyed her for like a year. And to me, I was like, that seems so benign. She's like, no, you don't understand. And then she explained it to me, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I didn't know you could use a Taylor Swift song lyric as an attack.
But apparently you can, and you can
Apparently
take
you can't. Kids
out
are crafty.
kids are taking out other kids with lyrics, and that's
Yeah,
nuts. Like
yeah,
that's nuts.
yeah,
And I think of what you were saying with middle grade, kind of avoiding it because, right, they shouldn't be on yet. I mean, like all social media sites usually have some sort of like 13 and over requirement for that because I think that also goes back to like legal regulations for being able to like email a child. So if you have an account, we have to be able to email you kind of thing. So
right, of
I,
course.
I think there's some sort of things with that, but right, like what do you need to? I mean, I was never much of a bike kid, but I
Yeah,
was always outside. I mean,
yeah.
I loved to make up my whole own worlds running around in the yard playing and occasionally on my bike. And I'll age myself a little bit, my Razor scooter, uh,
So
the
younger than
first
me.
time around. But, like there is just something, and it makes me think of boundaries because, of course, the kids are fighting for it because they don't want to be isolated from all their other peers who are on it. But what do you think about making boundaries for kids? How do you find that balance of like, of course, neither of us are parents here, but like finding that balance of here's a healthy amount of time
Yeah,
on a screen for whatever reason, whether it's social media or not.
yeah. I mean, I've always been my mom, for all her faults, and she had many, did the best she could. And she was always very direct with her communication. Always. Like when I was, I think 4, I have this very clear memory of us living in this trailer park in San Antonio, Texas. And it was me, my mom, my dad sitting around, and we were feeding the ducks. And I was like, where do baby ducks come from? And my dad's like, well, when a man duck loves a woman duck. And my mom was like, no, this is how it happens. And my dad's like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, he needs to know. And he's like, he's 4. And she's like, well, he asked. And maybe that was a little too young. But I will say, like with my nieces and nephews, and again, I'm not a parent, but when I hear them start to talk about sex or crack jokes about sex or mention movies where sex is a thing, I have pulled all of them aside and been like, I know this is uncomfortable, but if you have questions, if you were, I am here's a resource I will never tell your parents. Never, never, never. It's between you and me 100%. Um, and every single one of them has come to me with a question uh that ended up being, kind of a life-changing question. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because I think the whole reason banned books is a thing right now is because
Right.
parents do not want to have difficult conversations with their kids. They don't want to
Yes.
talk about racism. They don't want to talk about teenage pregnancy. They don't want to talk about abortion. These are big, heavy subjects that so many people have a hard time talking to their kids about. And like my mom never had a hard time talking about anything. And I was lucky in that sense. Like she was, there was a lot. If you've read my books, but she had some great qualities, and one of them was, if I had a question, she would answer it like I was an adult. And I've always treated my nieces and nephews as adults. Like I'm not gonna baby them, I'm not gonna cuckoo to them. I also read the room. I'm not gonna be like,
Yes.
you know what sex is, Johnny? Like I wait for Johnny
Right.
to be like, hey, I'm watching Euphoria, and I'm like, let's have a conversation about context.
Right. And you're like, whoa, why are you watching Euphoria right now? Number one. But two,
Yeah.
okay, let's answer some questions. But
'Cause-
I think that's so important. I think the biggest thing that you're saying here though is you're a safe space. Like parents don't always want to have those conversations. They don't know how to have those conversations. Kids don't want to have those conversations with their parents.
Well,
Everyone gets scared, everyone avoids it, and
yeah.
then people get hurt. Like that, this is what happens. And I mean, like, the more we mystify, the more we make things inaccessible and taboo and scary and whatnot, the more either appealing or dangerous they become. So by you saying to your nieces and nephews, like, just ask your questions. It stays with me. We'll have a good chat and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
It keeps them safe.
Well, here's the thing is like my nephew, sorry, I'm just thinking, I was like, does my family listen to every podcast? No, they don't. These are my in-laws, not my
Yes.
family, but still my family, whatever. Anyways, um, my nephew is autistic and loved video games growing up, and I always connected with him because he has a hard time communicating and talking to people, but he's brilliant. He's so
Yeah.
smart. And so like he didn't read books, but I started buying him books on video games, which he would read because he loves video games. I'm like, I got you.
I found it.
Read a
Yeah.
book.
Hacked the
But
system.
I noticed he was on YouTube a lot when he was like 13, 14, just guns, 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 guns. And I knew he played Call of Duty. And I was like, you know what? And I was like, hey, how about you and I spend a couple hours? I just want to see what you look at on YouTube. Like, and I want you to tell me why you like it. And so we were able to have this whole really amazing conversation about guns. Um, and I ended up going to his parents, and I did not bring up anything in the conversation, but I was like, hey, have you ever thought about, taking him to a shooting range and letting him hold a gun to see what it really feels like when a gun goes off in your hand? Because I will say, you know, Texas 80s education was very racist, very homophobic. I learned
Yeah.
really bad things. But one of the things that I think was really good was the first time a rifle was put in my hand. I was like 5 or 6 to shoot bottles, but I was being taught like guns are dangerous, guns are scary.
Right.
And I mean, you can take a life. Like my dad and grandfather tried to get me to shoot a deer when I was 7, and instead I shot into the sky to scare the deer off. And then my grandfather called me a soft boy, which I think you know what that means.
Yep.
Because I was like, there's no way I'm killing a deer. That's a beautiful, majestic animal.
Yeah.
But I think if you, again, meet kids where they're at, like if your kid seems to be spending a lot of time playing Call of Duty, maybe sit down and have a gun conversation with them.
Right.
Like, and I did that.
It's an important time to check in and just go like, hey, what's going on here? Let's make sure
Yep.
everyone's okay and everything is okay because, right, especially when you can get that focused on how well you're doing and the lives aren't real in the game, but they
Mm-hmm.
are in our world.
Yep. And I mean, I've been doing a ton of research on guns for this one book that is coming out in a year or two.
Yeah.
I won't tell you the whole thing, but uh, I did so much research on Glock 19s, and while I was doing it, the
Mhm.
algorithm started to pick up what I was looking at. So suddenly my social media feed, my Instagram feed, went from being like pictures of dogs and comic book nerd stuff
Yep.
to being
My
like
feed.
being rifles and being Glock 19s, and I was getting ads for. And so just out of curiosity, because that's what the book is about, like I started clicking on these things, and like these gun sites would be like, are you 21? And you just click yes. And I'm like, so there's
No
really
ID number to put
these
in,
kids
nothing to
out.
really validate. Yeah.
No. And then like I noticed like I got this really, really upsetting ad. And the ad was basically a guy on like the second or third floor of a building looking through a gun scope, and they're at a girl getting into her car, and it said, did your ex-girlfriend break up with you? And I was like, what? And here's the thing is like then there was a couple weeks later there was a New York Times podcast, The Daily, talking about how these gun companies now are putting real guns in Call of Duty. So they're sponsored weapons that are new guns. Like they're like, oh, next year we're releasing the NC-17 rifle automatic, blah, blah, blah. And then they would sponsor it in Call of Duty to be a real gun that you could like download or buy with points. I don't know. I've never played Call of Duty,
Sure.
but the
Same.
kid did it, and then they turn 18 and they're just waiting to turn 18 so they
So
can
they
buy.
can buy that gun.
And I'm like, this is a very disturbing world that we live in. I'm not sure if parents are aware of this kind of stuff. So this is part of the book. Like this is something
Right.
I did not know about that I found while researching. I'm like, do parents know about this stuff? I'm like, I don't think I
I
didn't
had no
know.
clue. And like I would say I'm pretty online. I play video games. I don't do much of a first person shooter. They make me dizzy. but and also guns, not my fave.
Yeah.
I'm a Nintendo boy, so I'm out here
Yeah.
building my happy island, but I just I hadn't heard of that. Like you'll see the oh yeah, you can be Peter Griffin in Fortnite. Like you see the
Yeah.
funny stuff like that,
Yeah.
but the fact that they're manufacturing a new weapon and then marketing it in Call of Duty.
And they're saying, "Oh, well, we're not marketing it to children."
But who's the main audience? I mean, there's because I feel like Call of Duty started with my generation ish, like people my age and like a handful of years younger were around the time that Call of Duty started. And so you're basically at that point, even some of my like friends, brothers who were younger, we're talking at that point, they were 11, 12, 13 playing this game with us being like 13, 14, 15 playing the game. Like
Yeah.
it's always been like consoles, yes, are for adults, but they're also marketed toward children. Like adults are buying them for children, and
Yeah.
yeah, there are adults playing Call of Duty, but I can assure you, it's probably more kids.
100%. And there's a lot more disturbing stuff I uncovered in my research, and I mean, I could go on for probably about an hour or 2 or
Oh,
3, and it's really upsetting, and it's like, I immediately called, like, my sister-in-law, and I was like, "Your son loves Call of Duty." I was like, "Here are things you need to be aware of." And, especially, like, he's autistic, and he's so sensitive, but he's also socially awkward, and talking to girls is not easy for him. And so he started like watching a lot of incel stuff on YouTube and being like, Seth Rogen is great. I'm like, let's have a conversation
Joe
about why
Rogan.
women are good people and are important and are equal to men. Um, and it's so
Seth Rogen is right. Joe Rogan.
oh, see, I don't know any of this stuff.
Seth
Oh, Seth
Seth Ro-
Rogen's a funny
Seth
comedian.
Rogen's the funny stoner. Yes. Joe
Yes,
Rogan's
him I
the
like.
awful one.
Joe Rogan. I apologize. I,
No,
I
I was
will
like,
encourage my nephew to watch Seth Rogen instead.
I'll let anything go, but it was like, oh no, we'll get that one
Yeah,
right.
no, I love Seth
As
Rogen.
another bald Joe, I gotta spit on the bad ones.
But I just again, like, I know we're
Yeah.
supposed to talk about back to school, but I feel like parents
No,
need
but this is
to be
important because
aware because kids go back to school and then kids tell other kids, "Oh, you
right.
have to check this out."
It's an ecosystem. I mean, they leave your bubble at home. They are exposed to and experience all sorts of wonderful things, culture, identity, differences. We want to encourage that. But then there's also the nefarious things of the world that are always trying to creep in and you never
Yeah.
know where it's coming from. Now, if I may ask, how do those conversations go with like your sister-in-law when you have to call and say, "Hey, I'm a little concerned about this," or "I want you to know about that," because not again, like not parents. I know when I've been like, "Hey," to my sister, "I just saw this article. Watch out for, you know, my niece loves these chicken nuggets you get from wherever. There might be a recall, or here's why
Right.
you should buy this one instead."
Yeah. Uh,
Because we're
with
still in the like one and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
four range over here too.
So my goddaughter, her mom was super open to everything. So that was awesome. With my first niece and nephew, which was with my stepsister, um, she was very good about she actually called me and was like,
Aw.
I think your niece, not my daughter, your niece has been flirting with guys in high school and she's only 14. And I'm like, cool, I will have a
I'm on
conversation.
my way. Yeah.
I'm on my way. Let's do this. But then when I had the gun conversation with my nephew, she got really upset. And she's like, you can't be telling him he can't shoot guns. This is Texas. Like, this is a rite of passage. And I was like, I did not tell him not to shoot guns. I was telling him playing Call of Duty for 6 hours a day is not good for your brain. And she's like, well, what do you know? You're not raising him. You don't know how hard it is. Are you calling me a bad mom? And I was like, no, no, this is,
Yeah.
I understand that you are raising 5 kids in rural
Right. And you're doing the
America
best you
and
can.
you're doing the best you can. And, they've always said, I mean, the adage is an adage for a reason. It takes a community. And
Yes.
right now, more than ever, kids aren't being raised with communities. The grandparents live 3 hours away, and mom and dad both have jobs, and everyone is trying to pay the bills and the mortgage and the taxes and all the adult stuff. And they're also trying to be good parents, but they don't have time to be
everything. They can't be the whole
They can't
village.
be every. Well, I was gonna say perfect, but no one's perfect, and that's.
Nope.
I think there is this weird thing in our society where everyone's like, "Well, they can do it in the movies." I'm like, the movies aren't real.
The
There's
movies
no
aren't
happily
real.
ever after. That's Hollywood. That's not real.
And those child actors are probably more messed up for having been in that movie. So
Yes. Yeah.
now, but thank you for that. Because like while I may not have a ton of parents who listen,
Yeah.
I do have a ton of aunts and uncles. I do have a ton of people who have kids in their lives. And I know it's got to be helpful to hear the like, don't be afraid to, number one, take the interest to talk to those kids, but
Yeah.
also then follow up with the parents and just do the like,
Yeah.
hey, these are the risks. Like
Yeah.
these are the dangers.
Yeah. And it's good. I mean, like, and my sister-in-law's been great. Anytime I've come to her and been like, hey, like, I just wanted to put this on your radar. I mean, she works her tail off. So she's like, and she's always so grateful. She's like, thank you. Um, yeah. And sometimes I will say a few times she's been like, I feel so bad. I wish I'd known. And I was like, how could you have possibly known? Like,
You can
I
never
was
know everything.
I was doing deep dive research on a book topic. Otherwise, I would have never known about these ads. Like, who's talking
Never.
about these ads? I didn't know about the
If
one
we
that
hadn't talked
put
about it
that in.
today, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have heard about it until I read your book.
Looking
So
at an ex-girlfriend through a scope as a commercial is so disturbing on
it's
so many
vile.
levels. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I cannot believe this exists in this world. Like, I thought there would be some kind of protective, I don't know, like commercials are run through an
Some sort of
AI robot
body.
that's
Yeah.
like, no, you can't do that. Um, and more than, I mean, it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get
Right.
worse. And so I just, yeah, if I could tell people like be cautious. And that's why I think spending an hour with kids, even if it's just 1 hour a week, maybe on a Friday night, be like, okay, you watch something for an hour, I watch something for an hour, but we watch it together and we talk about it.
Yeah. It's
You,
it's also
you may
like,
you may get stuck watching Minecraft for an hour. That has happened to me, and it's so boring. But better Minecraft than guns.
but better Minecraft than guns, but you can make fun with it. You have the good snacks and you have the whatever, but either it's your chance to be like, okay, I want to show you the original X-Men cartoon and we'll see what you think of it and then let's talk about it. Or,
Yes,
I mean, I introduced my niece to Pokemon and what can I say? It worked really well. She
you got her
was
addicted.
I surely did because she didn't want to talk. She didn't want to talk. And then all of a sudden she could say Squirtle. So,
Yes.
and now we are
Yeah.
talking full tilt, but oh darn, I guess I just have to buy her Pokemon things. How
Yeah.
mad can I
Yeah.
really be?
Yeah. Oh no. Now we can have a whole conversation. People will be like, what are you talking about? What's a side
Exactly.
doc?
My uncle was like, "Ah, man, I thought this was done when you grew up." And I went, "I
Yeah.
grew up?"
Yeah.
So before we start to wind down, some just kind of like rapid fire-ish questions for you. What was your favorite school supply to pick out at the start of the year?
The thing I wanted more than anything was a trapper keeper.
Hell yeah.
I never had one because my mom was like, they're too expensive. I loved my spiral notebooks because they were so cheap and I would get the cheapest ones and I would write stories, I would draw on them. I mean, spiral notebooks, and I mean, obviously pens. I would have loved to have like pens or markers or highlighters. Usually I just had one black pen. But you know what? There's a lot you can do with shading and with doodles and yeah, I
You'd be surprised.
there's something about a blank canvas that is just everything to me, and I think it is for a lot of kids.
Absolutely. My mom would always be like, okay, it's back to school season. And
Yeah,
she'd watch every ad to see when those spiral notebooks would go on sale. And
yeah,
then she'd go like trolling around and be like, well, this pack is 5 cents and just load up the cart. And so whether a donation needed to be made or, whatever, we just
yeah,
needed to walk down into the basement and be like, okay, I need a new
yeah,
notebook. And that was the best. You could have a
yeah.
notebook for anything.
Yes, 100%.
Did you have a comfort book or a go-to book in your school years?
Ooh. I mean, fourth grade was Anne and Green Gables,
Yeah.
which just did Dan and Green Gables, which was literally an idea I had in fourth grade. I was like, I didn't like being seen reading a girl book.
Uh-huh.
He had the red pigtails, and I was like, I wish he was a boy. And so, last year I kind of did a little dream fulfillment, like Dan and Green Gables, now it's a boy.
And it's so good.
But I think every year I had like a different go-to book.
Yeah.
But it was mostly X-Men after I discovered X-Men in sixth grade.
Can't
And I
blame you.
will say this, I'm going to tip my hat to Chris Claremont because I've been slowly collecting omnibuses of the issues I had as a kid so that I can read the comics I read as a kid. And there is Mojo Mayhem was like this special edition annual, very hard to find. I got it for a quarter at a half price, like used bookstore.
Yeah.
I was reading it for the first time in 30-ish years the other night. And oh my God, if it wasn't Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat from the X-Men, and on her bed was a copy of Anne Rice's The Mummy. Now, here is the thing. I always have wondered who introduced me to Anne Rice. It was Kitty Pryde in the X-Men on a train. The book is never mentioned. I don't even know if the writer put it in or the artist put it in, but it is a copy because I was like, what is this? And I like zoomed in on it. Like I took a picture and I zoomed and it was
Uh-huh.
Anne Rice, The Mummy. And I was like, oh my God, I read this. I asked for that book for Christmas because I had no idea what it was, which led me to read Anne Rice. Maybe too young, but I mean, I
We
love
had less options back then. Your books weren't around for us that like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, we were
But
we were
also
all reading a little old.
Excalibur 1, Once in the Future
Yes.
King, was in a bookstore window that Phoenix, aka Rachel Summers, was thrown through in a battle. So she gets thrown into a bookstore window and knocks over this Once in Future King. And I was like, what's that? I was like, that's a book. I've never heard of it. I have to read it. So I will say, like, I think I'm gonna start putting books in my books just
Yeah.
so we'll maybe be like, what is this book? I've never heard of this book. I'm gonna look this up.
Send him on a very brilliant rabbit hole. Like, oh,
100%. Yeah.
if you could give your younger self one piece of advice in one sentence, what would it be? I know.
Kids have asked me this question many times in different forms, like, would you go back in time? What would you tell yourself? I don't know that I would tell myself anything. I don't want to upset the time travel continuum because I
Spoken like a
really,
true X-Men fan.
but I really like the person I've become. Now, bear in mind that I've suffered for like 45 years. So I'm now at a place of privilege where I can be like, I'm happy for the first time in my life because I have suffered for so long and learned
Yeah.
so many lessons. But I think what I would like to say, and that I feel like in some level I did, was because there was always a voice at the back of my mind saying, one foot in front of the other, just keep going,
Yeah.
keep going, keep going. Like, because stay hopeful is so hard to say, like, when you're living through really hard stuff and being like, be optimistic. I'm like, that's such an easy thing to say. But there were a lot of times that I didn't have hope. But the thing that I always did was I was like, well, if I can't make it through the next 5 minutes, I can make it one footstep at a time. So
Absolutely.
I would just say, keep going.
I also just love the thought of that of like, oh no, I've healed me. I'm where I'm supposed to be now. So I needed all of that.
Yeah.
But the important reminder for all of us of just, hey, one step at a time. You can do that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Team recess or team lunge?
Recess. Oh my God. Really? That's not even a question.
I know.
For me.
For you, I
Yeah.
was gonna say what's one thing you dreaded about back to school season, but I know you didn't dread anything. Uh,
Incorrect.
no?
The free lunch line. Oh my
Fair,
God. Like, here's the thing. I
fair.
love being back at school, but I hated having to say I was in the free lunch program because I went
Yeah.
to a school with rich kids. And ooh, I got a great education at the expense of being humiliated on a regular basis.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
And if you could instantly master any subject you struggled with in school, which one would it be?
Spanish.
Oh.
I am devastated because I am half Mexican and I cannot speak Spanish because it was not allowed growing up in my house. Um, and it's one, and I took it all through high school. I took it in college. It will not stick. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think it's because I've always wanted to be a writer and I have been so focused on doing English. And they always say when you're learning another language, you can't translate it in your head, which is what I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to think of the best way to say it in English first and then how to say it in Spanish. And that's not how you speak.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, tell us what you're working on. Tell everyone where they can find you. Anything you'd like to promote.
Okay. You can find me at Third Rex on Instagram or at my website, www.rexogle.com. Sign up for my newsletter. It's really fun. I keep it light and fluffy. It's a little zen sometimes. I do book giveaways. But what I'm working on.
That you can talk about. I know.
Oh, no, there's a lot I could talk about. I'm just trying to. Next year or the year after is Count of Monte Cristo High, which is a revenge story. There's also The Odyssey Long Way Home, which is The Odyssey, but it's anthropomorphic. It's all animals. I wrote it in 2019 and the illustrator's still illustrating. I love you, Joe Casanova, but please move a little quicker. It's probably 2 or 3 years out still. I'm working on Bubblegum Coven, which is kind of like X-Men meets Powerpuff Girls. It's very colorful. It's middle grade. It's super sweet.
Oh, I can't wait. That was made for me.
Yes. I mean, Bubblegum Coven. I mean, the name just makes me happy just saying it. And that's
so perfect.
What I work on when I'm not working on my really heavy stuff like American Gun, which is about a gun making its way across America and all the lives that it affects. So yeah, I write the really heavy stuff and then I turn around like, I just need to spend a day working on Bubblegum Coven because it's colorful and fun and the kids love making jokes. Like, yeah, so I try to keep changing it up and I'm having the best time doing it. But next year, Fruitcake concludes the trilogy, Four Eyes, Pizza Face, Fruitcake, about all the names I was called in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade.
Oh.
And I think you can figure out what Fruitcake is about.
Well, if the other two hadn't gotten me well enough, I'm sure this one really will.
Yeah.
Well, Rex, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, have me back anytime. I love talking books.
Oh, I will have you back anytime you'll let me. And listeners, now we hop over to our next segment. Well, hey, y'all, we are at that midway part of our show. Segment 1 just wrapped up, and segment 2 is just about to be upon us. Since we're still early in the season, I wanted to take a moment to shout out our merch store from Libby, but also the fact that the show has merch. If you want this hoodie and so much more, you can check it out. If you want to see the merch, go to plotthreadsshop.com/booklounge. We've got mugs, totes, hoodies, crew necks, baseball hats, and t-shirts. Let's take a look. So you can see it right here. All sorts of different colors available to you. You can pick your favorites. I love this mug. It just dropped. I think it's so cool. Check out that design. All sorts of great things there for you. But we also have Libby and Sora and Canopy merch as well. There's also general library lover and book lover and film lover merch. You can see it right here. You can scroll through, you can find where you want to hop in and dive deeper and see all sorts of cool things available to you. I mean, I also have this, which I think I wore when I plugged the shop last time around, but I love this crew neck. It's so comfortable. And you can feel good about your purchases from plotthreadsshop.com. Profits from the shop are donated to the American Library Association's Office of Diversity, Literacy, and Outreach Services. So get you something you love and support a great cause too. All right, let's head over to segment 2. Well, hey everyone, welcome to segment 2 of this week's episode of Book Lounge. Joining me this week is the incredible Meara. Meara, take a moment, introduce yourself, share with the folks who you are and where they can find you.
Oh my gosh. Hey, y'all. I'm Meara, aka Meara is Reading. I'm active on TikTok and Instagram and was just telling Joe that I'm really trying to get myself to buckle down and make some YouTube content.
I know.
But like everyone else that you hear from, I'm a big reader. I love reading middle grade young adult novels. That's some of my bread and butter. I have a beloved 11-year-old niece who I am constantly trying to do book clubs with. So I'm always reading content that I'm trying to recommend to her. I have a friend who's a middle grade teacher, and she loves to tell me what she's teaching. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read that book too, and then we can talk about it. So really
That
excited
one's
for
going
this
on my
episode.
list.
Exactly.
No, I love it. I love middle grade and YA. Middle grade gives me so much hope because it is like the perfect bridge. I think you and I both probably suffered, probably me more than you. I'm older, I know, but like suffered more the, oh, you're a good reader and we don't really know what to do with you, but we also aren't covering this age range. So today's episode as a whole is kind of a back to school, back to books. In the first half of the show, I talked with Rex Ogle all about how we can support the kids in our lives. And so this is not just for the parents. This is not just for the people with children. It's for the concerned aunts and uncles. It's for the really close friends who just like to think and be aware of what's going on. But also it's a great opportunity to go like, let me put this book in this child's hands because I know from other people who are fun that this is fun.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Great
And
way to wrap it up.
but the other thing I like to say as well is like, you never know when you need to be healed as a child, like when your
Yeah.
inner child needs to be healed. So I hope you're here and listening and watching this episode, even if you don't have kids in your life. This is not just for parents. This is not just for people with children. Sometimes this is for us to go, oh, I didn't know I still had that wound.
Listen, not to reference myself,
Please.
but I did recently post a TikTok, like maybe like a month ago, that it didn't go viral, but it got a lot of good attention, and that people were like, "Oh my god, yeah, so true." Where I sort of was like, "Hot take: I think that adults are missing out by not reading middle grade fiction." Especially, I was inspired because I was reading a middle grade book, and the girl is just like the main character is just like socially awkward, and her sister was like, "Well, hey, here's how I handled these kinds of situations that you're struggling with." And I, at big 30 years old, was like, "Wait, that's such a good way to think of that and like to handle that." And I'm just like, we all need these like middle grade and like young adult and juvenile books are often teaching like life lessons that it can be really good to get reminded of
Yes.
how to navigate them even as an adult.
It's so true because like we just don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We also like I say it a lot, but seeing things that would have really helped me as a kid today, just not only does it give me hope, it makes me go like, oh, and like suddenly that part of me is gone or like feels better.
Yeah.
So pick them up. And the other thing I will scream from the rooftops is like usually the difference between middle grade or YA and adult is nothing. Like
Yeah.
there's softer language used. There's, you know, thoughts around how content is approached, but nothing is lacking. Nothing is dumbed down. It is set for a specific audience to be able to access it, but it does not take away from your ability as an adult to enjoy it. I think, yes, at the juvenile level, there's probably a little more like you're not going to find those biscuit pre-primers and like, you know, some Junie B. Jones very approachable for you today, but maybe you will. I don't know the last
Hey,
time I picked up a Junie B. Jones, so.
what's that one? Elephant and Pig? Is that the names of those books?
Oh, yeah.
Slap. They're so
Mhm.
good. I love
See?
reading them.
So just go for it. Give it a shot. So, Meara, you are a reader through and through. It does not matter the age range on that label. You are picking it up.
Yep, absolutely. I can't find it right now, but one of my favorite juvenile, like little books that I've read last year, The Skull.
Oh,
This is not on my recommendation list. This is not John Klassen, who has very famously illustrated some of like the best young books to come out recently. He did a version of The Skull, which is a Tyrolean folk tale, and I bought it for myself. I read it to my niece, who was like 4 at the time. She became obsessed with it. And so my sister kept having to take her to the library, and then other little kids were like creeping over and looking at it. And so that I just bring this up because you're like, maybe not at the youngest level, but like honestly,
you never
across all
know.
levels. And can I make a hot take real quick?
Please.
Uh,
If not here, then where?
so true. I think that often you're going to find the best pacing in novels for young readers because adult books love to like get into the nitty gritty a lot of time. And sometimes you can be really dragged down into it. But those young reader books, they are going to stick with it because those kids do not have the attention spans. And sometimes I don't either.
Absolutely. Say it again. Like, there is nothing I love more than the pacing in a book for a young reader.
Yep.
Because
I'm
right,
like,
I'm with it.
I just need to get through. I just need something to happen real fast. Like I just need to like get through something. If I'm in a slump, I'll pick up a young reader book because it's going to get to the action.
I will also say I love the lowered stakes. You don't experience it with YA, but with juvenile and middle grade, like the stakes are still there. You still feel the empathy, the sympathy, all of the emotions with those characters. And you know that this is their whole world and you know how much it's hurting them. But with my adult brain and adult perspective, I don't have to give over like my whole huge emotions to it. I can if I choose to, but this I can kind of like set in for myself where the stakes need to be. So if I, as this human, need it to be a little light, I can go like, oh, I feel so bad for that poor kid. But I'm not like gut wrenched that sometimes happens when you're reading like the big sweeping, maybe a few too many chapters adult fiction book.
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? This is a great lead into my first recommendation.
Please take us there.
It's The Flicker by H.E. Edgman, which is like really big high stakes because it is a year into the apocalypse. And it is two step siblings. Their parents were married like just before. So basically, like, the sun had a big flare. Everyone who was above ground got cooked. These two, their parents were kind of like more prepared. So one of our main characters, Millie, it was Millie's mom and Rose's dad who got married, and they had had a baby just before, or like just got pregnant right after the apocalypse. And so the book starts where Rose's dad has just died. And so now it is just these two 12-year-olds and a 1-year-old baby. And Millie is indigenous. And so she's like, my ancestors, my people have been like living off of this land for forever. We are going to find my grandmother because I know that she is a survivor. And so they set off to go find Millie's grandmother. And Rose doesn't really think that that's going to be the case, but Rose goes along with it. They come across this group of kids traveling the country in a school bus, trying to find any of their family. And it turns out they were like at a theater camp and they're being driven around by a like 18, 19-year-old boy who's like the most semblance of an adult that they have. And there is a big evil corporation who has centers across the country and they are protecting the white wealthy elite, but just eradicating anybody who tries to resist them. And so these kids are on this survival mission. There no plants growing. There's no animals out in the wild, really. Like everything that was on the surface of Earth is done for. And so it's a really high stakes. There's fights and shootouts and wildfire, and just like, it's a really like gut wrenching story about what happens if we don't protect the environment. It does a lot of diving into Millie's relationship with like her indigenous culture and seeing what has happened through like colonialism. And also Rose goes through a gender journey. And one of the kids on the bus is trans. And so there's this whole thing of Rose asking questions about being trans, and the other kid's like, oh, you're transphobic. And Rose is like, no, I'm not transphobic. I'm
trying to understand.
I don't know if I'm a girl. Doesn't everyone not know? Like, doesn't everyone have these questions? So it really touches on just like so many different things with this survival story, but it's for middle grade.
Oh, I love that. I love the like apocalyptic journey at that age range because it gives you like, we've had plenty of YA apocalypse. We've had plenty of adult apocalypse, but I think that middle grade mindset and just like, what would children that young do? What is going on? I think that's fascinating.
And there's a lot of like, some of them have that like blind childhood optimism. Some of them are just like full into doomerism. And so they're all like navigating these different journeys of like, how much do I try? What responsibilities do I have? The two main characters are also dealing with like parentification because they're caring for a 1-year-old that neither of them asked to have.
Right.
And so it's just like very unique perspective, but it all felt very like, yeah, I could see 8 to 13-year-olds acting in this way.
And there's just something about how, again, I'm here to sing the praises of middle grade and YA. Like, there is something for everyone. Every genre is represented in this group. Like, you know, I remember when the term middle grade came around to describe a specific subsect of books, but like, it didn't just put an age number on the spine. It embraced just the way that we saw YA boom and grow. It did the same thing for that age range. So it can help kids find their way into the YA books that they like. Did you like this genre, this kind of style when you were this age? Let's see if you like it now. And then let's see if you like it when you're a new adult reader, when you are an adult reader. It's just really helpful to kind of see these channels form and help people flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of going into my first pick, I think this is also something that I see big in the space, and that is middle grade graphic novels. And I think it's super important because it makes reading more accessible, it makes it more fun. I think it also, again, like it democratizes reading the same way that audiobooks do. I think graphic novels do that as well. It doesn't make it feel like a chore. You don't have to feel like you are doing your homework. So, my first pick is Making Friends Volume 1 by Kristen Gudsnick. Uh, I just read all 4 of these recently as a big graphic novel head and as a Scholastic super fan. This is from their graphics imprint. The first one came out in 2018. They are beautiful. And if you are a comic, graphic novel, manga freak, these are for you. You can tell that there is so much love. There are major Sailor Moon and Pokemon and all of those kind of references throughout. And it's absurd. The series, the stories, they are absurd. But Danielle needs a perfect friend. But sometimes making a friend is a lot easier than keeping one. 6th grade was so much easier for Danny. All her friends were in the same room, and she knew exactly what to expect out of life. Now that she's in 7th grade, she's in a new middle school. Her friends are in different classes and forming new cliques, and she is totally, completely lost. What Danny really needs is a new best friend. So when she inherits a magic sketchbook from her eccentric great aunt, in which anything she sketches in it comes to life, she draws Madison, the most amazing, perfect, and awesome best friend ever. The thing is, even when you create a best friend, there's no guarantee they'll always be your best friend, especially when they discover they've been created with magic. So it's a beautiful series. She creates the perfect best friend to help her not feel awkward, to have someone to talk to. But then when the questions come around of like, oh, well, where is your father? Well, the story background she created, like, oh, he's in New York and, I'm here and blah, 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 blah. And then one day she finds out she's not real, but she is also real because she exists. Like, there's so many like beautiful existential questions because it turns into like, well, I'm real because I'm here because you created me, but the backstory isn't real. So I'm discovering myself and I don't know how I feel about you because I'm supposed to think you're my best friend because that's how you made me. But I'm also really angry with you because all of this is a lie. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. And they also like, she creates things of convenience. So they're like Sailor Moon ripoff in the series they're obsessed with. She makes them all transformation compacts and they have to save the world because in the process she's also managed to bring evil into it. And as the series goes on, you see that like there are impacts of her using this magical sketch pad. So yeah, it's very interesting. And as it continues, twists and turns and check it out.
I
It's really fun.
I think this book would have sent me into a conniption as a child because
Oh yeah.
I believed I had a theory that Until I like learned, like realize that other people's lives continue to exist when they like leave my presence, you
Yeah.
know, when we all have like that awakening. I
Uh-huh.
believed that we were all just dolls being played with by like larger human children,
Oh
like
no.
that we didn't. So like to think of like someone
This
just
would
like
have taken you out.
I would have been in therapy a lot earlier if I'd read this book.
This would have absolutely taken you out if that's what you were dealing with at 8. Hmm? Yeah.
I was really stressed out. But I totally agree with you on graphic novels. And I love seeing all of these books that were like books that I read at that age being turned into graphic novels now. So that way,
Yeah, The
readers,
Giver comes to mind. Like, there's
Percy
so many.
Jackson,
Percy Jackson, yes.
The Chronicles of Vladimir Todd have a
Hmm.
graphic novel adaptation. It just like for all the kids who didn't.
Animorphs. How could I forget? And I know I brought them up in season 1, but the Animorph season or series is being like made into a graphic novel format. Like everything.
Yeah, it makes it so that kids who maybe wouldn't normally touch a normal book, a written book
Exactly.
would pick it up. I just love how it's made everything accessible, and it like gives you a new way to experience it if you're already familiar. I have the like illustrated version of The Hunger Games, which isn't a full
Yes.
graphic novel, but like adds just like the visual medium adds so much to the story.
Absolutely. And again, I think there is just something to like for some of the books that are getting an update to time with this version. You know, they're doing like the Babysitters Club and the maybe not Wayside School, maybe Wayside School, but like all of the different series that I'm sure you and I may not have read, but definitely saw in the bookstores and at the libraries when we were kids. Those getting a refresh, it's not that they just slapped it over to graphic novel. It was updated to go with the times. The Artemis Fowl series, which was coming out when I was a kid, it has a graphic novel adaptation now, which makes, again, like high fantasy, like heavy text more accessible.
And you know what? I didn't read a bunch of these books that you just named as a kid.
Yep.
And so like now that they have graphic novels, I'm like, well, maybe I can set aside the 4 hours it would take me to go through a graphic novel as opposed to the 4 days it would take me to read like
Absolutely.
full text.
I mean, I remember the Artemis Fowl books coming out. I owned many of them, but I could never get into them because it wasn't my speed. But did I sure as all get out read them recently in the graphic format? And I went, yeah, this is much more enjoyable for me now.
Yeah, I love it. While we're on the topic of graphic novels, this was again not on my list. Sorry, Joe.
That's okay.
But I recently read The Witch Boy by Lee Knox Ostertag.
Uh-huh. Oh, if you can believe it, this was a tough for me to not put on my list. So please bring it up.
Cute. Oh my gosh. I'll just give a little blurb. It is basically about a young boy who lives in a coven, and girls get to do witch magic, as we think of, and boys transform into an animal. They don't get to choose the animals like it's a set animal. And our main character, he loves to like snoop on the witches and learn what the girls are learning, and he's not transformed into an animal. And so I've only read the first one. But there's no like direct like he is trans or anything like that. But there's definitely themes of like non-gender conformity, being
Yeah.
gender non-conforming. There we go. And he makes a friend outside of the coven, and he learns that he has skills that were not traditionally ascribed to him. He learns that there's family history there and family secrets and family regrets and how other people were treated. It's a story about family trauma, that when we have trauma in our ancestry, that can be remanifested in new ways. And it's a cute graphic novel. Like the illustrations are cute and like fun to look at, and it is a great little story. As you can tell, I was on a middle grade LGBTQ reading kick recently.
Absolutely.
So.
But because you have now brought up a witch graphic novel, I see your witch graphic novel, and I unfortunately have to raise you one because the summer to me is graphic novels and manga. So I have been also on like the biggest kick of take me to your leader, basically. And I have to mention the OK Witch. by Emma Steinkellner. It is such a cute series.
Tell me about it.
There's 2 books out. Here we go. It's Sabrina the Teenage Witch meets Roller Girl in this hilarious, one-of-a-kind graphic novel about a half-witch who just discovered the truth about herself, her family, and her town, and is doing her best to survive middle school now that she knows everything. Magic is harder than it looks. 13-year-old Moth Hush loves all things witchy, but she's about to discover that witches aren't just the stuff of movies, books, and spooky stories. When some 8th grade bullies try to ruin her Halloween, something really strange happens. It turns out that Founder's Bluff, Massachusetts has a centuries-old history of witch drama. And surprise, Moth's family is at the center of it all. When Moth's new powers show up, things get totally out of control. She meets a talking cat, falls into an enchanted diary, and unlocks a hidden witch world. Secrets surface from generations past as Moth unravels the complicated legacy at the heart of her town, her family, and herself. In this spellbinding graphic novel debut, Emma Steinkellner spins a story packed with humor and heart about the weird and wonderful adventures of a witch in progress.
I will be finding this book and reading it.
You absolutely should. It is so cute. Basically, nope, I can't, I can't even say anything because it will spoil it. Like, because the details I'd love to add to it, yes, they come in quickly, but it's just like, no, you have to just read and enjoy. So
I want everyone to see that I am placing my hold on Libby. It's a 4-week wait. One person reading, one person in line. Hopefully they go through faster.
It's worth it.
I'm very excited.
And then the second one is just as cute. Like when you need a good read, there it is.
I love that. And hot take, I love reading graphic novels on my phone because I love how you can swipe through the panels.
Yes, where you can kind of like pinch your way around and
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If no one's tried that, it's actually like really great.
It's an excellent way to like get extra details to kind of, sometimes I find myself when I'm like reading a physical copy going like, oh, right, I can't zoom in.
So true. All right. Is it my turn or your turn for another?
It's your turn.
I guess it's my turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, on my list, I have Lovely, Dark, and Deep by Elisa A. Bonin. This is a young adult dark academia novel. Honestly, should I have saved this for the witch episode? Maybe.
It's okay.
But we're going to talk about it here.
We're sneaking witches in everywhere. We're heading into fall.
This entire shelf right here is witches, and half of the shelf below it is witches. So, like, I stay loaded on my witch novel recommendations.
Yeah, one thing about me, if there's a place for witches, I'll find it.
I will find it. Anyways, so this book, it's dark academia off the coast of Washington State. So it's got that like moody, dreary vibe that you want. Our main character is Faith, she's an immigrant to the United States. She came over as a child, so she spent a lot of her life adjusting to new culture, new language, and magic, because the reason her family had to move to the States was because it turns out that she has magic abilities. And her family was not prepared to deal with that. So they uprooted themselves and moved over to the States. So she deals with, kind of like the stress of like putting her family through that. But the magic system in this book is really unique in that everyone kind of think of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where everyone has like a different like affinity, kind of same thing. So some people's magics manifest through elements, some people's manifest through physical objects, but it's in a specific way. So yours might be that you can turn things into tree bark. You might have a power with fire. You might have telekinesis. And so it's kind of magic school. Everyone's like separated into their different abilities. But Faith, after her first year, she's coming back to her second year where the book starts, and she has been put into the kind of like bad student house where they study separately. They are kept from the rest of the student body because the year before, she and her best friend went into the forbidden magical forest and only she walked out. And so everyone thinks that she killed her best friend. And so she is now a social pariah, whereas before she was kind of a very well-adjusted, beloved student because of her relationship with her best friend. And so Faith is trying to figure out what happened to her best friend, find out why new terrifying things are happening to other students, to deal with herself and the other red stripes, that's what they're called, students being accepted, without being expelled from their school, while also dealing with the potential romantic feelings that she's struggling to understand that she felt for this friend and what that could mean if she's able to get this friend back.
Ooh, it's got everything.
It's got everything. What else do you need?
So I'm like, well, I'm sold. It hits every note I could possibly ask for.
It's got found family, it's got queer longing, it's got magic, it's got divided up into systems. We all love which district are you? Which
Uh-huh.
faction are you? Like we all love to be put into
Exactly.
little systems.
We love to be put in our little systems. We love the like murderer question mark. Yes,
Yes.
no, we'll never know. Yeah. Love that. Love that. We
Yeah.
love the like, did she kill her best friend? Who knows?
And we are getting like right into the right time of year for this book to hit. Like I feel like you want to have this on deck for that day where it's just like a little foggy, a little dreary. You can hear the rain hitting through the leaves. I'm giving myself chills just describing it. You want a hot pot of soup. You want some
Mhm.
tea. You're gonna be under a blanket, and you want this book with you.
You want it to be a little crispy. It's
Little
gotta feel like
crispy.
fall. I know.
Exactly.
Are y'all having a heat wave right now?
Yeah, it's gonna be like almost 80 degrees today.
I know. So, sorry, everyone. I forgot like Meara's in the same weather system as me. We had the most beautiful, like early onset fall. It's
It
like
was so
50 every
nice.
night. The house was wide open. And then it's been like 80 for the last couple days here in Cleveland. And
Yeah, but I'm about to go to the UK, so I'm gonna get some like
oh.
real crispy fall vibes.
Oh, yeah. You're not gonna even know
So
what time of year it is.
I'm reading all of these kind of moody books, even though it's 80 degrees outside, because I'm like, I am getting in the mindset.
I'm
I'm
getting
getting
ready.
ready.
Yeah, you're playing 40 chess with it. You're ready for it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, my last pick is a bit of a shout out to our guest from segment 1 of this episode, Rex Ogle. His work is just so amazing to me. I know I gushed in segment 1 and he, whatever, check it out. But not only does he write beautiful books under his name, he also writes under Rey Terciero, which is his pen name for a lot of the work that he's doing to take the classics and make a queer graphic novel version of them. So Dan and Green Gables just came out this year. Yeah. Yeah. Because he wants to shift what happens when you search for some of these books because the descriptions match, so they pop up and it's representation and it's thoughtfulness on the classics. And I'm going to do a quick shout out because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention his beautiful, brilliant memoirs and nonfiction like Free Lunch and Abuela, Don't Forget Me. And then, of course, his 2025 released novel in verse, When We Ride. He is always taking a look at tough topics, sharing his own tragic, tough, difficult story growing up and making it for a place of just growth and enlightenment and sharing and caring. And when he does school visits, I mean, when he joined me live at ALA, it still like gives me chills to think of when I asked, like, what are some of the questions from your school visits that sit with you? And the first thing he said was, how do you know? And this is just some little like 8-year-old going, when did you know? How did you know? Not understanding if they're gay or not. Like, so he's doing so much work and putting these brilliant, written for the ages that need to hear it the most stories out there. But I want to talk about the Supernatural Society because this man contains multitudes. Because 'tis the season, number 1.
Not us scooping the witch episode.
Sorry, we're just getting y'all ready. It's priming. But we also all need a break from the heavy topics, and this is a great series with quotes from like Stuart Gibbs saying monsters have never been so much fun, and Neil Patrick Harris saying frightening and fun. Uh, Basically, readers will be scared silly in this spooky and hilarious middle grade series starter about a town chock full of monsters and the kids who must unravel centuries of secrets to save the town. Will Hunter thought his life couldn't get any worse. His parents just got divorced. His best and only friend now is his dog Fitz. And his mom moved them from New York City to middle of nowhere town called East Emerson. But Will was wrong. Things are about to get way worse because East Emerson is filled with a whole lot of monsters, and he's the only person who can see them. When all the town pets, including Fitz, go missing, Will suspects there's something sinister going on. So he joins forces with outcast Ivy and super smart Linus to uncover the ancient secrets of East Emerson. Besides, nothing bad could happen when 3 6th graders team up against monsters, magic, myths, and mad science, right? Yeah. So that is the Supernatural Society. You have to check it out. It's so much fun.
I've sold.
Yeah. It's like,
you know what?
It's great.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds reminiscent of Paranorman.
Yes.
Which I
Absolutely.
love Paranorman.
It has that energy. It also has like some Scooby-Doo vibes. Like it's all there for you. And again, like it's just fun. It hits that outcast, that where do I belong energy. Like all of these things that I think we as adults sometimes need to remember to feel. So not only are we more empathetic when we do have to talk to and like hang out with kids, but also when we deal with each other. Because like everything comes from somewhere. So sometimes we need to remember what it felt like to be an outcast misfit.
Huge news. The audiobook is available right now on Libby.
Available right now. See? Look at what you're doing next.
Also, all of the books that are showing up under, because you know how like Libby will either be like, these are similar vibes or like similar titles. It's giving similar vibes down the row, and it is like all books that I've read and liked.
See?
So
So you can even like kind of endorse it without having even opened it.
Yeah. I love to do that. I love to do like, you know what? The vibes are really, the aura of this book is really speaking to me. And I think I'd recommend it to you based off of that.
Exactly.
And this aura is speaking to me.
So I wouldn't usually go so heavy-handed on an author, but we had a great conversation in the first half, and I felt it was very necessary to mention his books in this part as well, because if you're looking for middle grade writing, some of the best right there.
Love it.
Meara, anything else you'd shout out before we wrap up?
Don't ask me that, Joe. There's too many things that I could shout out. I got 2 books on my shelf right now that I'm trying to get my niece to read with me.
Well, what
Where
are they? I have a keyboard. I'll add them.
We have The Changelings, Sister, Friend, Outlaw, Hero is little blurb. It's about a girl whose sister gets kidnapped by fairies. And then we also have Finders Keepers. This was not the scavenger hunt they expected. So I grabbed these 2. My niece is obsessed with Roblox. She's also very like in that I'm not scared of big things moment. And so I was like, let's get some age appropriate books that say that they're scary.
Yes.
And so I was like, read these. I bought me and her each copies.
I
want to read this one more. I think she'd want to read this one more because it sounds like a Roblox game. It's like 5 Nights in the Forest or something, like 99 Nights in the Forest. I don't know. So this is my
some like 5 Nights at Freddy's.
Some kind of thing. Yeah, it's giving Blair Witch
Love
Roblox middle grade game, and I was like, great, we're gonna play a game where kids have to do a scavenger hunt in the cemetery and the stakes go up. But this is my middle grade TBR.
That, you know what? But that's so perfect. I love that you found a way to read with your niece, and I have to add those to my list now because like I'm a big horror reader. And what they're doing in middle grade horror, I need to know more about. I need to be fascinated because, like, we talked about it earlier. We can grow everything, but how do we grow horror? And then my brain goes, how many times did you read scary stories and more scary stories? And how often did you think about the green ribbon? Like,
the green ribbon. I remember running when it was library hour in middle school, like you were like lined up at the door and it was a sprint to be the first one to get scary stories off the shelf.
exactly.
Even though we had all read it a million times, we'd all passed around the book throughout the week. But like to be the kid that checked it out,
You wanted to be the one who had it. Yes.
a title. That was like the proudest thing you could have. And I loved it. I would chase the other kids around and show them the scary pictures.
Absolutely. And, and then I think about like, there was one point where my sister was telling me this story of like, I just don't know what to look for. But, me and the neighbor kid had this creepy tape of scary stories. And they had this one that they kept referencing. And I'm like, there's no way that all of these are connected, that they were listening to the audiobook version of like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And wouldn't you believe they sure were.
That's so funny.
So they've been kicking around for a minute because my sister is older than me.
Wow.
Sorry,
Listen,
sis.
that's like a classic.
Right.
When you talk about middle grade novels, like Scary Stories to Tell in the
Yes.
Dark, A Series of Unfortunate Events.
I know I got the email that said your special edition 25th anniversary is coming to your door soon. And I was like,
I'm so jealous.
why did you have to phrase it like that? But okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, that does make me feel old.
Real old. Real
Oh
old.
God. Wow. Okay. I like grabbed that off of my like first, second grade teacher's bookshelf and I was like, what's this book? And I was like, this is going to shape my personality for the rest of my life.
And then when you realize that like, oh, you know, people talk about first edition this, first edition that, and then you open your book that you got like on release day and you go, oh right, it is first edition because yeah.
Because I've had it for that long.
Because
Wow.
I had a pre-order to pick up from Borders Express in the mall.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to like beg my mom to take me to the store so I could get this book that was coming out.
Uh-huh.
Crazy.
Exactly. The wildest things. Well, Meara, thank you for joining me today and for sharing some incredible middle grade and YA Rex with the folks.
Absolutely. This is my favorite thing to do.
Oh, same. It's the perfect break in the middle of the day. Listeners, thank you. Now let's awkwardly transition to me doing an outro. Oh, wasn't that a good conversation? Thank you so much to Rex for joining me in segment 1 for a really thoughtful and fun conversation on the back to school season, adopting routine, how it's important, not only for kids, but for us as well. So many things to think about there, including, gosh, the impact in video games and marketing and so many things to think of. I really hope you enjoyed that segment. And of course, thank you to Meara in segment 2, our incredible guest host, for taking us on such a wonderful journey through middle grade and YA. And I hope we gave you some great books to add to your TBR. I know we kept adding more and more. Our lists were small when we stepped in, and, we were moved to add. Now, make sure you're subscribed and following the show. You won't want to miss next week, where I'm joined by Rex Ogle for our conversation on going beyond the label, looking at diversity and disability representation in books. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow Book Lounge by Libby on your favorite podcast app and check out the Libby app YouTube channel for our full video episodes. You can reach me via email, bookloungebyLibby@overdrive.com, and you can find us on Instagram at libby.app. If you're loving the show, a quick rating or review helps other book lovers find us. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, happy reading! You can sample and borrow the books from today's episode in the Libby app, or if you're a librarian, find them for purchase in Overdrive Marketplace. Book Lounge by Libby is a proud Evergreen Podcast signature program. Explore more amazing shows at evergreenpodcasts.com. This podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, with editing by Andrew Alonzo. Our theme music is High Five by Rex Banner, used with permission. Book Lounge by Libby is presented by the Libby app. Learn more at libbylife.com/booklounge.